Behold World of Warships Legends' most forgotten battleship, Tier 7 Tech Tree British battleship HMS Vanguard. A ship that I barely ever see played these days, but one that I really like. Now, to be fair, Vanguard probably has a bit of a reputation for being not so good in the community. But I'm here to make the case to you, as I think I've made a few times in the past, that the Vanguard is actually a good ship. There are only two things that are objectively bad about it. One of them is the firing angles on the main battery. We've only got 8 guns here, set in 4 double turrets with 2 on the front and 2 on the back. In order to get all 4 of them on target, well, you have to give them about that much broadside right there. That will open you up to taking a lot of damage, especially since the Vanguard is an old design, so its citadel is well above the water and very easy to hit if you are giving too much broadside. And the other bad thing about the Vanguard is that the main battery accuracy is not exactly super consistent. However, we do have a 21.9-second reload with this build, and I've actually got John Fisher at the helm. New British battleship commander, he's mostly designed for the battle cruiser line. Not all of his skills are 100% useful on Vanguard because it has no engine boost, but I think he's a pretty good commander to run on it, and he's got one skill in the second or third row that reduces the main battery reload time as you lose HP. So at some point in this battle, we're going to have a 19-second reload on these 8 15-inch guns of the Vanguard. Also, this first salvo against the Nagato. This is the Vanguard at its best in terms of accuracy, 19,000 damage done. You'll also see some examples of things going the other way. However, with a reload this quick, I don't know that it so much matters that not all of your salvos are pinpoint accurate. That Nagato would probably be toast if I had led that shot just a little bit more, but it falls pretty far back on his ship, and he's going to get away for now. We've got a Hawk there approaching the corner of the island, and we've also got a cruiser coming around. We don't want to push into these guys. The cruiser is a hipper, the Hawk has torpedoes, he's also got large guns, and the Nagato has our broadside. So the initial idea here is to get close to this island and make a hard turn to the right so that we can assume a kiting position. But some rather demented things are going to start happening very quickly here. We try to aim for the Hawk's bow, which we know we can overmatch, and then a wild Georgia appears and bizarrely decides not to shoot at me as he comes around the corner, despite the fact that I've been spotted this whole time and the Georgia could have had me dead to rights. If he had shot those 18-inch guns into this broadside, I might have gotten dev struck, but he doesn't shoot at me, he shoots at somebody else, and offers me his broadside as compensation or something. The Vanguard's salvo into that broadside is not super impressive. This is short fuse British AP. It's not the best for citadeling enemy battleships, even ones as, well, lightly armored, let's say, as the Georgia. The Georgia's citadel is quite accessible as well, and he still continues to give broadside and get away with it. Meanwhile, Hipper has our broadside over there on the other side of the island, and, well, there's one good rule of thumb to follow when you find yourself in a situation where you're squaring off against multiple enemies. You want to focus on whoever has your broadside first, even if that ship is a Hipper, which, after all, is cruiser. It's not going to take us out instantly with one salvo from its AP, but if we just allow it to have our broadside the entire time, eventually it's going to whittle us down. We're angled to Georgia. He can get some good hits on us if his shells go into the superstructure. The Vanguard also has a bit of a flat butt, so if the shells hit the very end of the stern, then they can penetrate there too. But you can see with just one salvo, the Hipper does significant damage. If he does that over and over again, then we're going to sink eventually. Hipper is on the map border. He's stuck in one place. We can't seem to do anything except overpens, and our accuracy is becoming questionable. So we deploy the Vanguard's one little gimmick reload booster in order to acquire some DPM and take this guy out as quickly as possible. At the end, we get the, of course, obligatory Pitadel, and the Hipper goes down for our first kill of the game. That leaves the Georgia and the Hawk over here on this side of the map, and I think we've run out of friends. The friendly CV is dropping these guys, and he's going to come in handy as this game continues. Hawk comes out broadside. His citadel is much like the Vanguard's, very accessible. We actually hit it there and nearly take him out. Georgia's still alive, still shooting as we approach the map border, which we're going to run into now. We'll be able to take out the Hawk with this last salvo, and then I wanted to switch to the HE because I assumed the Georgia was just going to push bow into me from his position over there in the Alpha Cap. But instead, he makes a baffling choice and also completely the wrong one. I really don't understand why he's doing this. If he was going toward the left of the screen, for example, I'm sort of stuck on this map border and he's really fast. I think theoretically he could get up on my broadside and do a lot of damage to me, but instead he's going to the right of the screen, which takes him across my stern and makes absolutely certain that I'm completely angled to him and therefore am able to mitigate most of the damage he's going to throw at me. Of course, he takes out a turret there, he does some damage into the superstructure, but it's not catastrophic, and we've still got 2 heals left. We get the high caliber medal there with that salvo against the Georgia, and bizarrely, he still continues to head for that island. He's gonna show us broadside the whole way and get away with it, thanks to the poor RNG that the Vanguard sometimes gets. And then he's going to take himself behind that island and out of the fight for a moment, which is going to allow us to heal up and get away from the map border so that we can start kiting away, which we're going to do because our team has taken both the Bravo and Charlie caps. We're ahead on the objectives. There's no reds over there, so none of those objectives are actually in danger of being flipped at the moment. And there are 3 battleships over on this area of the map, all on the same sort of vector, which is bad. If these guys spread out and made it impossible for me to angle against all of them, I could be in real trouble. If I push into them, I probably will be in real trouble. So we're going to begin kiting away toward our own spawn. There's the Nagato that we saw earlier. Our shells are able to overmatch his armor scheme practically everywhere, so we get another good, decent salvo there, and we don't get spotted. But we know the Georgia is on our case. We know Brutus just banged his head on the microphone. Sorry, Brutus. And the Nagato goes dark as we fire a half-blind salvo his way. We're still spotted, though. That's courtesy of the Nagato, but we can see, courtesy of the friendly CV's spotting, that the Georgia is behind that island there, sort of to the right of the screen, and he's probably going to come out to the right of that island. We're going to need to be prepared for that, but we're hoping that we're going to acquire vision of the Nagato somehow. We've got 2 friendly battleships on our team chasing the final enemy destroyer somewhere on the other side of the map. We still hold both caps. We're ahead on points. Things are looking okay right now, but the enemy team is ahead on kills. Georgia comes around the island. We massively outspot him because I'm specced into double concealment with Kondo and Azerlane Sovetski Rossiya as my inspiration. So sea detectability, 11.8 kilometers. That allows us to control the engagement and take a shot at the Nagato. Again, the Nagato, like the Hipper earlier, has our broadside, and so we need to eliminate the threat on our broadside before we can properly fight the Georgia. Georgia can continue to shoot and continue to bounce and shatter enough of his shells and not do any catastrophic damage to us. Nagato, if he turns his guns this way, he could theoretically citadel us and take us out. We only have 30,000 HP left. Salvo on the Nagato isn't great, but the friendly Georgia ends up taking out the Nagato. And that friendly Georgia is on the other side of the map. He's one to watch. He's going to do a great job in this battle and come in clutch near the end. More on that later, but now it's all the Vanguard and the enemy Georgia. Although there is 1 battleship left alive somewhere to the south of the Alpha Cap that was last seen pushing in this direction, so we might still be outnumbered here. We switch to the HE because Georgia looks like he's going to be angled quite a bit. As you've seen throughout the entirety of this battle, the Vanguard's AP is good. It does a lot of damage for 15-inch guns. I think the damage numbers are somewhere around 14,000 per Citadel. That's really good numbers for 380 millimeter guns. And the only real bad thing about it is it doesn't consistently Citadel battleships. It's great against cruisers, maybe not hippers so much, but against other cruisers. And then we've got the British HE, which has good alpha and a great fire chance. With the Georgia being as angled as he is and on low HP as he is, I feel like we should be able to farm him down with this HE as long as these shells hit, which once again they really aren't. And again, I think that's the only objectively bad thing about the Vanguard is the inconsistency in the shells and the poor firing angles. Of course, you can play around the poor firing angles. The rudder shift here isn't bad, and we can open and close the angle as needed while we're kiting away in order to get our full firepower on the Georgia, who has been hit by the friendly CV and appears to be on a permanent flood. With this salvo from the rear turrets here, or maybe the front ones, we're finally going to light a fire on the Georgia. I think he's just DCP'd the flood from the CV, so that fire is going to be lethal. He gets one nice parting hit on us just before he goes down, but there he is for our third kill of the game, and we're up to 176,000 damage done after doing, I think, quite a good job on that alpha flank with not a lot of assistance, but some assistance certainly from the friendly CV, who is in big trouble now. He's got the Z-39 pushing toward him, and he's got nobody in between himself and that enemy destroyer except me. Of course, at 17, 18 kilometers away, it is hard to hit a destroyer. We'd managed to, though, with that initial salvo and at least do a little bit of damage, but none of these follow-up shots are going to land. I think we're probably aiming a little bit too low, to be fair. Maybe not, but the dispersion is, to put it not so charitably, trash. So none of the shells are going to land, and, well, the friendly CV is doomed. He's just going straight for the Z-39. That Z-39 is undoubtedly going to send him back to port with a salvo of torpedoes. There goes the CV. That just leaves me and the friendly Georgia against the enemy destroyer and the enemy CV. Now, the outcome of this battle is mostly down to the fact that that friendly Georgia must have quite a bit of HP left. The enemy CV is focusing him, but there's a little bit over 2 minutes left to go, and it's not clear yet whether the CV is going to be able to take out that Georgia quickly. If the CV is able to take out that Georgia quickly, and then he comes for us, we're going to lose. We have no way to counter that CV at all. If he comes after us with his planes, he can essentially damage us with impunity, and there is literally nothing we can do to fight back because he's on the other side of the map. We don't have a chance at shooting him, so we cannot sink him. We have to hope that the friendly Georgia is going to survive long enough to tie up that CV that we can simply win on points. There's less than 2 minutes left to go. We're far ahead on points by nearly 400. Even though the enemy team does hold 2 caps, they are never going to catch up with this amount of time left. And so one thing we absolutely cannot do is push into the destroyer. There's an easy way to counter the destroyer in this situation. Simply do not push into it. Instead, sail away from it. We know his last known position, and we know if we sail in this direction that we're going in now, there are 3 potential benefits. Number 1, we could potentially get into Alpha and stop the enemy accrual of points there. I don't think we need to. But number 2, the enemy CV is spotted and heading in this direction. So if we sail this way, we get closer to him, maybe we can get some shots on him and sink him. And number 3, the Z-39 is over in that direction where we're looking. So if he tries to torpedo us, we're sailing away from the torpedoes, and it's going to be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for him to actually hit us with those torpedoes. In fact, he decides to shoot his main battery guns in the dying minute of this match. The friendly Georgia is still alive, but the enemy CV is going to take him down right now, actually, I think. We shoot at the Z-39. The results are not great. I don't think we're actually going to take this guy out, but the enemy CV does take out the enemy... Oh, I thought it was a Georgia. It was a Connecticut. My mistake. The enemy CV takes out the Connecticut, but there's less than 30 seconds left to go, so he's got no time to get to us and deal damage, which means we're able to survive. And even though we are not going to take out this Z-39 before this battle is over, we are still more than 100 points ahead. The enemy team has no chance of catching us, and so we are going to win this battle. Glorious victory here for HMS Vanguard with almost 190,000 damage done. And, if I might say so, some pretty excellent XP numbers. Now, I accidentally backed out of the load screen, so forgive the cut here, but 3,773 XP. That is some good numbers, I think, particularly when we shot down 0 planes in this match. There was a CV in this match. No planes ever came at us. We never shot any down. So those XP numbers are not inflated by overly valuable plane kills. The XP that you get for plane kills is, I think, a little bit absurd. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the battle. The Vanguard is a good ship. To those of you out there who say it isn't, you just have to play it right. And consider giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.